On tonight's Late IHP Show, we are going to take a lovely look at some of our human species expansion of consciousness. So we start with our lovely existentialists, the old, and so Friedrich Nietzsche, man alone with himself, every superior human being will instinctively aspire after a secret citadel where he is set free from the crowd, the many, the majority. And on that note, here's an adaptive child for you, and those would be the emotionally immature individual. So the human beings who are navigating life from their survival mode. And so whether it's through trust breaks of a heartbroken 3-year-old with a shame cycle, and so I'm defective and I have self-loathing, and very serious topics that good therapists, neurobiology attachment therapists with the neurobiology of trauma, so the good ones would be people that are talking about this stuff like Bessel van der Kolk, Daniel Siegel, Peter Levine, there's Janina Fisher, Terry Real, then I know I'm forgetting some people, Stephen Porges, there we go. I love my lovely team that I got to learn from in Somatopia. That's with Dr. Albert Wong, and Sue Martin is one of my favorites that I got to learn about our charged states. So we all have them. The basic charged states are 5, and that would be your 0-1-year-old attached panicky, your 3 to 7 shame submissive, and then freeze of all ages. And then we have 11-12, the flight. And then we have 14, 15, 16, the fight. Now, if you also remember, our right brain mode is the only part of our brain online that first year of your life. So the attachment system of your brain and my brain is online. And if it does not get stimulated with the ideal parenting style, which is authoritative, not authoritarian, and not permissive. And authoritative doesn't mean that you're going to no, actually that's going to scare the bejesus out of me. But of course, this is not about any of let's teach parents. No, it's about the nervous systems and the actual ability to understand the concepts of the new neurobiological and the new sciences. So if you're a flat earther, you're not going to like the new sciences, because the flat earthers, they're trying to prove that the earth is flat. So again, we also have those who would not consider themselves flat earthers, but they're ancient silverbacks, and they bring forth all of those religious institutions with the texts as if it were set and etched in stone, and that in time it's still somehow people who did yoga, people who did also all of the metaphysics, esotericism. We reviewed this recently. So they are focused podcasts on basically helping to get you to heaven. And so their theme is very specific. And then we have other trending podcast individuals who interview people, and then they randomly just start talking about yoga as it demonizes you. So if you are in a group of closed-minded people, and fanatics is what I would use as a word, but no, they're not fanatics necessarily. They're just people who didn't go through the religious self-expansion mode. They went through something and or more, and they went, I'm going to close myself off to the world and get rigid and stay in my adaptive child. I have a crowd. I did not free myself from the citadel. No, I have a shame button which gets poked, and when it got poked in a certain way, then I got to find my new herd. I have not healed my trauma. So the people who are speaking against yoga, now that they have come to the light of, in their words, Jesus, which no, Jesus stands for unconditional love. So they're all pretty much, they shouldn't use the word Jesus. If they want, then they should go to another type of monotheistic religion. I have one in mind. I won't really mention it, but that one would make more sense, because if you want to use Christ, well, Christ spoke of forgiveness. So anybody who is not doing that, they obviously didn't hear. Their ear, in fact, here's the thing. Their ears are in the survival mode of those who follow the crowd. That's why an ancient silverback from the ancient text is spitting wrath, basically scaring the 3-year-old and the 1-year-old, and they have no No, they have no visibility. So once they were doing yoga, magic wand, oh, it's going to heal me, it's going to help me feel better. Somehow they don't notice that they went in, it's going to get me to the other side of something. Thank you, lovely Patrick Tiahan, childhood trauma survivor, healing and therapist, as he mentions, and so do a lot of other good childhood therapists. How many childhood trauma people end up, lo and behold, as people who get into the culty cults, the traditional cults, and lo and behold, even ethical cults, because they need to be a part of the crowd. So they don't want to free themselves. In fact, shame comes from our ancestors when we were in a herd and they're still acting it out. It's called I'm ashamed. But the sad part is our updated neurobiology with neurobiology of attachment, neurobiology of trauma, Basil van der Kolk, Daniel Siegel, Peter Levine, Stephen Porges, again, Somatopia, the entire Keep, the Awakened Embodied Certificate. Any good therapist will tell you how your right and my right, birthright, is our restorative embodied self, it's called. So it's you and I navigating from our prefrontal cortex. It's you and I navigating from what is called our land of equanimity and truth, which is navigating our nervous system in a window of welcome to emotions. Not a window of tolerance, which instead happens for those who are not securely attached in that first year of life. So if they did not get the ideal amount of authoritative parenting, 1/3 attunement, and then repairing the ruptures. So if I feed you, force feed you, but you're cold, I'm creating a rupture. If I, as that parent, don't fix it, and eventually every time you're hungry, every time you're cold, I feed you, you are not getting met in the needs that your physical body needs. And you'll remember that in one way, shape, or form. Now people, again, they don't believe, lo and behold, neurobiology. But they believe that a demon will possess you for doing yoga because of a lot of things. Like they still believe demonic possession is a real thing because they don't believe Patrick McNamara's studies and other neuroscientists who have shared and do share how there's no demon that possesses you. Furthermore, we all have a brain. It's the same. And if you have a level of childhood trauma that doesn't allow that right mode in that first year of life to actually be used in the way that will allow circuitry to take place. No, you're not a machine, but there's a way that the brain is going to function. It has circuits for fear, anger, sadness, for all of those emotions. I believe love or sex is one of them, because love, you have the oxytocin gene hormone on without the dopamine or any of that other stuff, even in the just presence of sitting in your ventral vagal state. Furthermore, when it comes to anything sexually, actually, when you look at good neuroscience and sex therapists and their information, it is not about the physical contact, it is all cerebral. So there's your neuroscience again. And in fact, let's lead ourselves to today before we run out of time, because existential physics is where we're at. Sabine, thank you for writing it. Sabine Hossenfelder, and A Scientist's Guide to Life's Biggest Questions. Now, some people, as Albert Einstein has pointed out, are negative. So let's stay away from negative people. They only have a problem, or they have a problem, not only, they have a problem for every solution. There's not a problem here that I'm presenting, but there's an equation called we have secondary consciousness, all of us humans. We know that we live and we know that we die, unlike animals who they go about grazing the grass, and they just allow if some of the herd has poofy eyes and they have a sickness, like the cats, they just leave them to die. Okay, so we're not actually that. We're aware of things, and we want what is called meaning. The human condition is how I call it, but therapists call it, some of them, the human dilemma, the ancient ones. One of the first therapists that I found that talked about love in the way that we know it today, Eric Fromm. So our nature is love, but only when you're safe to be yourself from a person who knows the mind and body of you in harmony, and you go beyond spirituality and the human elements to know physics and physicists and quantum physics in the realm of the stars. I mean, if we need to look for truths, really, that's kind of a big word. I mean, let's look at conceptualizing and explaining the meaning of life, which can be that you and I are born and then we die, and we don't like to not know. And so we venture off into the imagination sphere, and more than just that, which we all know as 5D mystics, Enlightenment functional adults. And so tune on in for more and have a wonderful winter solstice, because today is that day. Tune in.